Welcome to Basic Science Series. I'm your host Lokendra Kumar, and today we will be understanding the key terms that are used in medical parasitology. I have made multiple videos where I'm trying to explain various topics in the area of microbiology and biotechnology. If you're really interested in these videos, then I recommend you to watch those videos on the specific topics that I've posted in my YouTube channel. Today, what we will be discussing is the key terms that are used in parasitology. We will make multiple videos, and in this series, we'll try to cover important parasites. So, to understand the parasitology in general, you need to understand some of the important terms. Without any delay, let's get started. Okay, all right. Welcome to the video where we will be discussing the key terms or keywords used in parasitology. There are some important terms that we use in parasitology, and there are various these kind of terms that we need to understand. So as you can see here, I have this slide for your reference, and I've written parasitology, that is the topic, and then we will understand various keywords. So the first one in this case is the arthropod. So whenever this particular term is being used while you are studying parasitology, it indicates to the members, so as you can see here, members of the phylum Arthropoda, and which is the largest in the animal kingdom. So as we all know, the organisms, they are being classified by a system where you have different groups. So when we talk about animal classification, animal kingdom, and then various phylum, you will find one phylum which is Arthropoda, and the arthropods, they are going to belong to that phylum. And why they are important in parasitology? Because many vectors, they belong to this particular phylum. Okay, so that is the key term first. Second one is asymptomatic. Now I'm using these keywords randomly. There is no connection between the first and the second one, so that maybe it can become helpful to understand a particular keyword in a fresh manner without linking the one keyword with another one. Anyways, let's see how it goes. So the second one is asymptomatic. Asymptomatic, as you can clearly see, that the word came from symptomatic. Any disease or any kind of condition here, that is what it is written, disease or condition that displays no symptom, no symptoms. Specifically, when it comes to carrier of infectious agents, they are the people who are not able to show any symptoms, but they have the infectious agent within their system. So we can call them asymptomatic host, correct? So we'll use this term quite often, so we need to understand that. Second one is asymptomatic. Next is class. So as we all know, phylum, then you have different steps when you classify any organism. So one of the major group, that is the class. And the class, the third largest major or obligatory taxonomical classification. When you do taxonomical classification, you rank some of the organism in a specific class based on their similarities, based on their differences with others, and it's a smaller than phylum, but it's larger than order. So as you all know, that you have phylum, then you have class, then you have order, and so on. Next is commensalism. What is commensalism? It's a symbiotic relationship. So when the relationship is symbiotic with other organism, and which basically benefits without causing any harm to the other organism. In this case, maybe the host, if you are discussing the relationship. So when it comes to parasitology, various relationship will be studied, in which commensalism is also one of the important relationship. And as you can see here, one organism is not causing any damage or harm to the other, so we can't categorize this in a parasitic relationship. Okay, move to the next one. Next is cyst. All right, so what is cyst? Cyst, I hope many of you already know what is a cyst. Cyst is basically an inactive state. So parasites, many parasites, they have to live in the environment. They also have to live inside the host where the environmental conditions are going to be different. So as you can understand in this case, that one form that needs to be inactive or more resistant in nature, and which will have a protective covering also, and where the protozoa usually enter the bodies of host in the form of cyst, because it will be in the environment, and then when they try to enter inside the host, they will have that particular form entering inside the host, so it becomes the infectious form. Inside the host, they will convert itself into a different form, and we'll also discuss that. So I hope that is clear. So basically what it is, it will be something like this, where you will have inside the genetic material will be there, and some food material will be there, but it will have that outside very thick or resistant wall that will protect itself from the environmental conditions. Okay, next, definitive host. Now, first we need to understand host. When it comes to a parasitic relationship, you can understand there will be a host, there will be a parasite, and definitive host is the host where parasites reproduce sexually. So as we all know that organisms, they reproduce in two ways. One is sexual reproduction, another one is asexual reproduction, and sexual reproduction is where it is going to form gametes and male sex form, female sex form, and if those are absent, you can call them as asexual reproduction, but the number of the organism is increasing. So parasite enters in a definitive host either through a vector or an intermediate host or through some source. It can be a water supply, right? So as you can see, there are various means by a particular parasite can enter inside the host, and that host is basically going to provide the nutrients. Next, ectoparasite. Then you have ectoparasites, endoparasites. So I think we can cover both of them altogether. So what is ectoparasites? So word ecto and endo, it clearly signifies that parasite living outside the host body, living inside the host or the tissue or the cell. You can characterize this as endoparasite. Now next is eukaryote. So prokaryote, eukaryote, we have understood this term in detail. I have multiple videos on these terms. Prokaryote is basically a cell that has a nucleus. So eukaryotic organisms, they have nucleus. Prokaryote are not going to have this specific feature, which is nucleus. And then as you can see, many of the other organelles that are membrane bound. So that is the feature of eukaryotic cell, and there are so many other features, and this is beyond the scope of this lecture, but I hope you can understand. Now I'm trying to mark the keywords here. Next is facultative. There are two terms, obligate and facultative. You can use these terms based on various things, but in general, what is facultative means, it's a term for a symbiotic relationship in which partners are capable of living apart. Okay, so this is a generalized features. Means if you are saying facultative host, maybe where what will happen, or facultative parasite, where what will happen that the parasite is able to live without the host also. Correct? So facultative means it's not required, it's not urgent. Obligatory means it needs to be there. So these are some of the important things we need to understand about these key terms. Okay, now let's see what are the other key terms. All right, moving to the next slide, which includes some of the other key terms. As you can see, GI tract, gastrointestinal tract, which indicates the stomach and the intestine. And also, when you talk about the GI tract, it includes the entire tract, starting from the mouth, and it's moving to the stomach, intestine, and all the way to the rectum, anus, right? So that is the GI tract, and we will be using these terms quite often. So you need to understand what is GI, right? So I can write it down here. Next is host. We have already covered the importance of the host. It seems like I'm putting too much content in these slides. I'll try to reduce this content, so next time I'll be more trying to explain all those things rather than to write all those things over here. But it is maybe easier. You can also help me with that. Just put that in the comment section what you like. It's to reduce the content or keep it simple like that. Okay, the term for an organism that provides a benefit to the the benefits to the other organism. So when it's providing a lot of things, especially nutrients, other benefits to the host. From the host to the parasite, you can call it as the host. And benefits can be of different kinds. They can be of shelter. It can be nutrition. It can be protection. So many things. Okay, so next is intermediate host. We have already talked about other kinds of host. Here, intermediate host. So there are two different types of hosts. One, we already talked about the definitive host, where the reproduction will be sexual. In this case, intermediate host. It's a creature or the organism that serves as a host to parasite, which receives directly, or they can be through vector, right, before passing it to the definitive host. So in particular, an insect can serve as an intermediate host. Intermediate is nothing but something that is coming in between in the stages of transferring the parasite from the environment and inside the definitive host. It's been carried by a particular secondary host, so you can call that host as the intermediary host. So as you can see here, parasites do not reproduce sexually. So that is another and very, very important point, that parasites, they are not going to reproduce sexually in this case. Moving to the next one, which is obligative. Obligative word, we have used the facultative, now we are using obligative, and it's the symbiotic relationship in which if the obligative relationship we are talking about, then symbiotic relationship in between the partners, when they are separated, it will be incapable of continue to live. So that means they are not going to live without each other. Next is the parasite, and then this comes the most important part, parasite. What is parasite? Parasite is the general term that is being used for one particular organism if it is relying on the other organism for many benefits and also causing harm. So you can see what is the general term. It says it's the term that is used for any organism that is capable or that depends on the other organism for support, and support can be of any kind, which receives and it receives at the expense. So that host damage, you can say, or harm, I can write it down here also, is happening to the host. And this relationship will be called as the parasitism. So parasitic relationship, where the one organism is getting benefits at the expense of the other, and we can characterize this relationship as the parasitic relationship or parasitism. Parasitology. Okay, we are coming to the term. We should have explained this term in the beginning, but it's fine, right? So it's a biological discipline that is devoted to the study of the parasites. So here we are including parasites, but primarily those, when it comes to parasites, we specifically study protists, and not the parasitic bacteria, fungi, viruses. We study them in a different discipline, microbiology in general, or infectious diseases. You can say the other organisms, they are studied in terms of the infectious diseases. So you have to be careful when you're using parasitology or parasites in general. Now, what are protists? That is also important. It is a term used for the member of kingdom Protista. So as we all know that we classify organisms in different categories, where kingdom Protista includes all the members that have specific features, which includes algae. Algae are also in this, other than blue-green algae, which are not the member of this one. And then you have some other organisms. So as you can see, there are some members in that particular group which are capable of causing harm to the to the various hosts, including humans, animals, plants even. So to study these parasites, we have a discipline called parasitology. Okay, moving to the next one, the term pathogen and protozoan. So pathogen and protozoan, they are completely different terms. Pathogen includes any agent or any organism that is causing a disease, right? In this case, we are referring to microorganisms because they are the one causing the disease in various organisms. So we are indicating those organisms as pathogens. Next is protozoan, a term that is referred to some 50,000 species of the Protists, right? So another term that is being used, having organism having specific features, they are protozoans. Okay, symbiosis. Now, symbiosis is another important term that we need to understand when it comes to parasitology. It's a biological relationship in which symbiosis, right, where one organism is getting benefit from the other one, and other is also getting benefit from the first one. So you can see here it's a biological relationship in which two species, they live in close proximity. So that is one criteria that is important, and interact regularly in a way to benefit each other. Correct? So I think that clarifies various things, and you have different types of these relationships. Mutualism is there, commensalism is there, and then one is parasitism. These are all kinds of different relationship between the organisms, and especially when we talk about symbiosis, when there is a benefit going on, right? Then there are other terms that you can also use while studying parasites or parasitology. Okay. Next is trophozoite. So we have already discussed about the cyst, and when cyst enters into the host, it gets converted into another form, which is in many cases called trophozoite. It's a feeding stage. So when it comes to the feeding stage, you need to remember that trophozoite is the feeding stage. It's opposite to the resting stage, which is as opposed to the resting stage we have already discussed, right? So next is vector. Vector is an organism that can be an insect that transmits a pathogen, right? Vector, we all know, carries something from one place and going to put that particular thing into another place. So vectors are the insects that basically carry the pathogens from one host to another. And with that, I hope that you at least going to understand some of the basic terms if you are studying a book on parasitology. Usually these terms, they are going to be defined early in that particular book, and I recommend you to read all those things before reading the chapters of the parasitology, or just directly jumping onto the specific parasite. So this is going to help you to understand parasitology in a much better way. Right, so all right, we'll meet in the next video. I hope you enjoyed the video. In this video, we have discussed various key terms, important key terms, and I hope your understanding is much better now of these specific terms. In future, I'll be posting more videos on specific parasites, their life cycle, their structural, their molecular features. So if you are interested in those videos, then please stay tuned.